What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Ci'Ara Desiree. Once again, I am sending my love your way. I definitely wanted to jump on today because I've been asking myself this question in regard to me being heavy on my healing. A lot of questions should be presented that we actually have to sit with, process, think about, ponder, journal about, right? So here's the question, okay? Are you hiding or are you healing? There is a vast difference between the two. And I'm going to get into it, right? So, with me being a person, like when somebody hurts me, like I'm cutting you off. Like, cutoff game is super strong. I don't got time. I'm going to go to my little section of the world, possibly under the rock where I like to be, because I'm not in the line of fire. I'm not about to put myself in positions that allow me to get irritated or triggered or hurt or frustrated, because if I've gotten to that point, it's because I've overexerted or I've really tried my hardest to exist in this thing called life and exist with these people that irritate me, right? So a lot of times when it comes to me, I guess you say, for lack of better words, me trying to level up and, deal and handle with the hurt that I've already been exposed to. I like to call myself going into isolation. And isolation to me is going off the grid. It's unplugging from social media. It's not dealing with or talking to the people that I used to, excuse me, or that I thought I needed to be around, right? So with that, it's just okay, cool. So we off the grid. We're not exposed. We're not having to communicate. We're not having to do any of the things we don't necessarily feel like doing, right? But when it comes to healing, healing is exposure, whether people want to believe it or not. And it's such a weird concept because if you think about, falling down and getting a scrape on your knee, the Band-Aid covers the wound. And I feel like the Band-Aid is there to block excess dirt, debris, and any type of germs from getting in. It is a barrier. But the healing actually happens when the Band-Aid comes off because it's exposed to the element. Once it's scabbed over or once it's like, you know, when it's not as fragile, when it's not as fresh of a scar, you're taking the Band-Aid off after the blood stops, right? The exposure from us removing the Band-Aid is what allows us and the scab to heal. And so with my previous mentality about trying to heal, I thought it was just putting myself in isolation. I don't got to talk to nobody. I don't got to see nobody. And in this mindset, it's like, I'm doing so well, right? I am not bothered. I have not been triggered. Nobody has pissed me off. But then when you go back out into the element, you realize that in your idea of isolation, you also have not grown. Because you weren't triggered, you still have not learned how to have the tools to maneuver through hardships, through difficult times, through dealing with difficult people. And just like the Band-Aid analogy, in order to heal, we have to be exposed. But you being exposed to certain elements, certain attitudes, certain personalities that may make you uncomfortable, that may irritate the hell out of you, deep down, it's actually teaching you how to be a better person. Isolation isn't always the thing that's going to send you to elevation. It can in certain seasons, but also when you think that because you're off the grid makes you greener, makes you better, helps you grow, it doesn't. You're kind of like stagnant. You're not triggered because you haven't been around people. So did you really learn how to deal with people to overcome? Or were you just hiding to stay out of the way so you didn't have to be exposed to your healing? And that was me. And I could give you a great example because when I was back I would say a couple of years ago, I was on the dating apps heavy, and when one of them would piss me off, like I would have my cycle, so I could talk to like 5 guys, and all of them, literally all of them, would fall off. So I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm so done. I'm getting off of these apps, acting like I'm hurting the people. Life goes on. Them right swipes and left swipes still continue, right? They ain't miss me. They just finding their opportunities with other people. So I'm thinking I'm punishing them when I'm really punishing me. And then after a while, you muster up the courage to try again, to complete your new cycle. You get back out there in the field and you still fucked up because you pulled yourself out of the game and you never got the fundamental skills to be able to maneuver, the wisdom to be like, I can maneuver from this, or I really don't have to entertain this, or I saw this early, I saw this in the last guy, so this is a red flag so when I pulled myself out of it, I wasn't exposed to what was happening. I'm thinking I'm protecting myself, but when I got back in the field, I didn't have the armor that I needed, so I was still in the same spot. And so when it came to, and that's just an analogy for the dating thing, but I feel like it works in life too, because you can't say that you're over here healing when truth be told, you're just hiding so that you won't get hurt. Hurt is going to happen, but healing happens after we're exposed to the hurt and we learn how to cope and get over it. Cope and move through it, right? And so sometimes God uses those ugly, uncomfortable encounters to give us deeper experiences with Him. And if we're pulling ourselves off the field or out of the game, we're also hindering our growth with God and with ourselves because we're trying to avoid hurt. Hurt is a prerequisite for healing. And I don't think a lot of people understand that you cannot bypass one. We can pray for wisdom and discernment to try to lessen the blow, but the blows are still what's going to build us up and have us to have deeper relationships with our Heavenly Father. Pain is inevitable. It's going to happen. And you trying to hide and go off the grid is not helping anybody. You dealing with people you don't like, it's uncomfortable for the moment, but it's also growing you. And if God brings you to it, He's going to bring you through it. But sometimes you have to go through the uncomfort, the ugly, the frustration in order to get to the fundamental skills that you need to get to the person that you want to become. And it was mind blowing for me because it's like, nah, I don't got to talk to you. I don't got to talk to nobody. I'm good by myself. I'm good under this rock. But then you get tired of being under the rock because it's like, while you're under the rock, you're also not allowing your light to shine. You're also not living your life. You didn't put up a wall when God only meant for you to put up a gate so that you could have control of who could come in and out. You building a wall, you've enclosed yourself. You put yourself in isolation. Life still goes on. Your light still needs to shine. You cannot avoid pain. You can be wise about it. You can have discernment and pray through your pain, but it's still going to Jesus couldn't even avoid the pain. So what makes you think as we're encountering this thing we call life, we are able to bypass it? And when I really understood the concept that pain is a prerequisite for healing, or hurt is a prerequisite for healing, it made me look at it different, because God does work all things out for our good. And the better you is on the other side of through, but you got to get to the other side. And another thing that I found to be very helpful was that instead of me calling myself going off the grid, which AKA means I'm hiding, I have to remove the fear. And in order to remove any type of fear, you must face it. And facing it is moving forward, leaning into what scares you, leaning into the uncomfortable, because that actually helps you lean on God. And when you're leaning on him, that gives you guys the experiences you need to ground you in your faith, ground you in your strength, to get those fundamental skills to do this thing that we call life. But you hiding under a rock and saying that you're not going to get hurt ever again, you're not living life either. You're not living life, and you're doing yourself a disservice by not including God. That's willpower when you're hiding. That's you trying to get in the driver's seat and be God to yourself. But when you out there in the field and you're facing it and you're praying your way through it, God will see to it that you become the person that you're trying to become. You don't have to hide. You don't have to do anything out of fear. And it was like, I was a coward for a very long time. Ain't nobody gonna hurt me. I know what I need to do. I ain't gonna talk to nobody. I don't talk like that. But that was like the energy, you know? But then I was like, no, that didn't really work. And it was crazy because it was a dating app that taught me. Me removing myself. Oh, yeah, that's fine and dandy. I ain't hurt nobody but myself. Because I'm still at the same level I was when I left off. I didn't grow. I didn't digress. I just remained the same. Are you hiding or are you healing? And healing is leaning in. Healing is doing that uncomfortable work. Healing is not running the opposite way. Healing is not going off the grid for more than a couple of days, just so you can make sure that you're doing what you need to. That's one thing to kind of like gather yourself. But I'm talking about, like, I was hiding for months, dimming my light because I thought that I was my God to myself, thinking this was going to be the best course of action to take. And it wasn't. The best course of action is getting into the action, learning more about yourself, learning more about people and how you respond to people doing life with you. You cannot isolate yourself in life. It's not going to benefit you or the people that deserve your light and the people that actually want to love you, including yourself. So it's going to be uncomfortable. But part of being heavy on my healing was honestly leaning into the things that scared me the most. Leaning into the things that I thought would be the painful things. And sitting there in the ugly. Because the ugly eventually turns into a beautiful outcome if you let it. If you allow it, and if you let go of willpower and understand where the real power is coming from, and that's your relationship and your connection to God. If he calls you to it, he will bring you through it. Be firm in that. Believe that. And understand fear is hiding, but faith is facing it. Faith forward. Believe. Because God did not give you the spirit of fear. He did not give us that spirit to hide. He gave us power, love, and a sound mind, right? You got this. You got this. Don't hide. Focus on being heavy in your healing by leaning into the things that you don't want to lean into, right? But anywho, I hope this blesses someone. And I hope that I'm not alone in these fearful times. But the only way to overcome fear is by facing it and faith in it with God on your side. Okay. So I love you all. And again, until we meet again, make sure you do everything in your power to be you, do you, but most importantly, stay true. Always and forever. I love you. Bye.